So welcome to CX Exchange Success Hour. Today's session is how to use AI to build stunning and powerful presentations and portfolios. And our co-host and primary host today is Mariena Quintanilla. And we're so excited to have you here. Let's dig in.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with what Gamma is and what you can create with it. So they just relaunched their brand with the tagline, Tools for Imagination. And so I want you to use that to think about what you can do with it is sort of however you want to use it to create something almost beautiful. There's many things you can use it for. I think the thing that they're most well known for and probably is most common are presentations, creating slide decks that engage audiences. But you can also create it for webs. You can create websites with it. Everything is hosted and they have specific features for websites. So you can create landing pages and there's some integrations there. You can create social media carousels. They actually recently launched an integration with LinkedIn. So you can directly post to LinkedIn if you want to create a carousel. And you can create interactive documents, proposals. I know people that use it for that are looking at how can I create like a playbook with it or a guidebook. Some people do proposals, and it's just going to be a little bit more of the design heavy documents versus, like a sort of 100% text type document. So let me show you some examples so you can actually see what that looks like.
And as you're doing that, I just want to mention too, like, especially we have a session that was, if you go on YouTube or our resources, there's a lot of different sessions on different topics, AI and CS or job searching or, other types of, CS business leadership, things like that. And one of them was specifically on best practices to create a portfolio if you're job searching. And what's amazing though is how easy it is to use something like this
Yes,
to
absolutely.
create those. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think in the past 5, 10 years, there's been sites like Wix. I'm trying to think some of the others that you didn't have to know how to code to create a website, especially if it was a static site. But to me, this makes it even easier than some of those. So you might notice also that you haven't necessarily seen this layout before. This isn't a standard 16 by 19, no, 16 by 9 view that you would get in a PowerPoint because today's session is being delivered on Gamma, right? Ultimate in Meta. And so you can do things like embedding other slides or what they call cards. So that lets you present a lot of information in a way that's a little bit more streamlined instead of just kind of a straight linear flow that you would do in a normal presentation. So for instance, I can just open this up and I've embedded 2 examples for a bunch of these. So I'm just going to open these up so you can see them. And let me know if it doesn't jump to it. I think I shared my whole browser, but if I only shared that one tab, do you guys see this creating a work with me document? Okay.
Yeah,
So
you're good.
this is an example someone in the Gambassador community shared, where they created a presentation that when they, go work with someone new. I don't know if you've ever heard of a working with me document. I have one of these that's a doc, but it's just a nicer way to sort of organize the way they talk about the topic and kind of fun. So you can kind of see how it has yeah, different ways of presenting that. So this is one example, and then it, has a link at the bottom to this Notion. And then how do I get it to go back?
And so the link that you shared then will have access to all of these things you're showing us today, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to.
And here's another one for a case study. You can see there's lots of different designs, but you can see, you can have some of these background images, if you will. So as you slide through things, and right now I'm just scrolling, but it has, like I'm doing in the presentation, just like PowerPoint or Google Slides, a full screen view as well, where you kind of click through one slide at a time. This is just right now the sort of publish view if you publish it to the web. And then they have different charts. So yeah, just one example, the way you can show statistics. So you can see definitely relevant, I think, for some of the customer success use cases.
Mm-hmm.
Quotes. If you have like a case study, this was, I think, a case study, right? They have different icons. An icon
The
might.
other thing too is when you look at these slides, they aren't necessarily in that, traditional 16 by 9. They can be in
Yep.
any sort of, shape that you need.
Yeah. Here's some examples of what you can do in a website. So they do have support now for headers. So if you are creating your like portfolio landing page, you can create, say, 4 different pages, and then, put those together so that you have a header to create an actual website. They have support for buttons, things like that. And then from there, it's, very similar where they have sort of this card layout where you can organize things. I liked this one, I think, because they did have these different events. Was it this one? Maybe not. But they had embedded events from Airtable because they had a integration with Airtable. Thought it was their events. They have a lot of some of the same things you would see in Canva and other design tools where you can remove backgrounds, you can kind of center images, and we'll get into that more with a demo. Yeah, here's some ideas for a website. Even my own website. If you look at my website is implemented with Gamma. So I have, again, kind of header. You can organize, like I have different resources that I've implemented and linked to. Yeah. And you can see it has just a really nice, clean look. I chose the sort of wider view that's, to me, more like a website versus you saw some of the others that kept it kind of the card with then like a background image. So lots of, I think, really sleek ways you can create a website. I
And
mentioned,
when we after we go through these, let's actually look at the tool in terms of how,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'll go a little bit faster on some of these.
yeah.
I wanted to show you how social media carousels look. So let me start with actually one that's actually posted on LinkedIn so you can see what it turns out like. So just like the carousels, you've got the click through, right, where it's sort of page by page, and you can see that that's how it's displayed. Whereas really behind the scenes, it's just like a presentation. It's a card, but it sets it up in the aspect ratio that's optimized for LinkedIn. And it's when you select this, it's going to have a lot less text than it would a presentation. You can choose if you put images or not. Um, yeah, so different things you can do with it. And then if you're looking more document use cases, this is someone who did, oh, this was me actually. I created like a knowledge base. And so that, in this case, it's much more text heavy, but it's still, kind of a nicer way to view things, has, the ability to kind of make it prettify it. That is not a word. Um, Beautify. So you can kind of, organize the content like you would maybe if you're in like a Notion or a Confluence, things like that. But this is something obviously that you can share maybe a bit more broadly. So a lot of different things you can do with it. I'm sure they're even going to be expanding the types of documents that you can create in the future, given now they're sort of going after this tools for imagination tagline. So it'd be interesting to see where they go from here. So before we get into the tool, I did want to kind of quickly share with you how Gamma is different from classic tools like PowerPoint and Google Slides. So as you saw just in that previous card, there's a flexible canvas. You don't have to use a 16 by 19. You can keep it at 16 by 9, but you don't have to. You can make it so that things can be longer when you have maybe a card that has maybe more content. You just have a little more flexibility. The second thing is it has a bit of more of an intuitive flow in that you can nest and collapse content between sections, which allows you to switch between a sort of compact, simple view and the more detailed view instantly. So that to me is something that I really like about this tool. And I use that a lot of times where is in a PowerPoint, you might have had a slide that had 3 bullets, and then you might have had 3 slides that follow for each of those bullets. Now you can just take those 3 slides and nest them into sort of the parent slide so that then it shows them in that compact view like you saw in the last card. Streamline editing one of, to me, the best things about this tool is you're not wasting time trying to move objects all over and kind of align objects in a way that just takes so much time and is so frustrating. Or if you want to change font color, font size, things like that, and get it to apply across the board, you really have to manage templates in like Google Slides and PowerPoint to get everything to align correctly without spending a lot of time. And I think it's a big headache. This makes that much more easy, and you'll see what I mean by that when we get into the demo. The last thing is, it is not just an AI tool. One of my favorite things about Gamma are actually some of the non-AI features, and I love that they haven't just built a tool to be AI for AI's sake, but they use AI where it makes sense. And then they have plenty of features that are not even anything to do with generative AI, that just make the product better and that allow users to create more beautiful content. So here's some examples of that, that you can browse through, but you can create different types of formats. These are some of the things that you have the ability to switch between on the cards themselves, like the size, the sort of visualization between having like a header at the top or on the side, or even just a background image that you overlay text on, as well as sort of the width and whether that extends or not, to sort of make that, they call it full bleed. It's like the idea that your content takes up the entire width of the page. Um, what else? I showed you the expand. When I talk about the non-AI feature, or sorry, this is for streamlining the editing the content, you can move between different types of visualizations, if you will, whether that's text boxes or maybe a timeline view. It's very easy to switch between different views, as well as, this is an example when I say it's not just AI for AI's sake, but lots features that make sense, right? So for images, yeah, you can create AI images, but you can also directly within the tool access Unsplash. You can access Giphy, Pictographic for, sort of really nice illustrations if you want that kind of consistent look and feel. So
So
that,
we're getting some questions over in the chat.
yeah.
So Danny, and feel free to come off mute, Danny, if you want. But he's asking about using this for training docs.
Yep.
And let's see, Danny, do you want to come off mute?
Yeah, hey, so basically, I have been building out all of our different training documents. I work at a small Series A startup, and a lot of it has been in just slide decks and videos and whatnot. And it's a lot of, screenshots and walkthroughs. And so I'm thinking
Yep.
there's a way to do that in, a Gamma type document, but obviously it wouldn't have the images readily available from my, SaaS. I'd have to provide that. So I'm just curious if you've heard of use cases similar to that, or if that doesn't necessarily apply here.
Yeah, I use it actually for, I'm an educator. I use it for actually a lot of the content that I create. So you can see, for instance, in the images one, you have the ability to upload your own images. So if you're bringing like screenshots of your own tool, you would just upload those images, and you can even drag them, for instance.
Interesting. Okay. And would it know then, like if there's, if I'm trying to walk through a specific workflow and it's screenshot by screenshot, would the system then know in what order, or do I have to manually set that? Like, I'm curious how much work this would offload in Gamma versus, adding additional work by having to order the images and whatnot regardless. And if that's the case, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty other use cases here.
Yeah, no, you're gonna put them on each card as you want them. So we'll get into the flow when we do the workshop part, but essentially you can create the gamma, and then just like in PowerPoint or Google Slides, you're gonna edit slide by slide, or what they call cards. It's just that editing process is much more, it's a much happier process.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot less frustrating. So you'll still need to go though, and in your side, right, figure out the right order and where you want to put, say, a screenshot. You're not giving it like a bucket, like a folder of 10 screenshots, and it's not figuring out, like
Yeah.
it's going to look at the images and figure out like their order, anything
Yeah.
like that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? You're on mute, Jan.
Danny, I was just going to say, there are other tools that might be more specific to what you need, and I will post them over in the AI and CS channel so that we can focus on Gamma now, but there's
Yep.
lots of different things.
Yeah, there's definitely tools out there that if you do like a screen record video where you're clicking and it can generate from that.
Yep.
If that's
Yeah,
your
there's one that literally is really, really easy to use. So,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so what are their powerful features? So they have an AI native design. So it's, it's not something that's been tacked on like the products that have been around for 10 plus years. So that means that its features are really built with AI in mind from the beginning. And you'll see that when you're creating the documents, for instance, or in the way you edit. There's a lot of rich integrations. So it's not just sort of static content, but you can embed videos, Airtable databases, you can put forms in there. Brand guides. You can actually upload, for instance, a PowerPoint. So if you're an organization where you have that brand template, you can actually give that to Gamma and it'll auto detect the colors, it'll pull out the logo. So it's sort of little features like that. So you're not having to kind of manually go and look at the brand guide, copy and paste the colors one by one. That to me are really helpful. And there's really easy designs that you can work with to switch the formats and find what works best for you and helps you communicate most effectively. All right, so we're going to jump in now. So what I'll do is I'm going to screen share and I'm going to go into the tool itself and show you different things. And then we'll kind of start and stop as we go through. We have these sort of 3 things that we're going to do, 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll share and present. Jan, are you thinking we do kind of breakout rooms and come back and forth between the breakouts? Is that?
We won't have the time to do that, but let's go ahead and have people, play along at home.
Yep.
So, get ready, if you haven't created your account, go and do that. And then let's actually try to do this. If you have, we won't be able to be like a tech session and troubleshoot all your tech issues, but at the same time, want to show you how you might do some of these things.
Yeah. And the first,
this is gamma.app. This is your account, right?
yep. So the first thing we're going to do is create something. And I want you to frame in your mind that you're using this to kind of sort of get you there, maybe 50, 60% of the way. It's not 90% most of the time because it's going to be kind of too generic and you're going to want to tweak things. So don't think about it as sort of a one click. This is going to be everything. But you're first going to start by generating what you're looking for. You can either come with your talking points and something that you want to paste in. You can do it from a prompt or you can do it from a file. And once you do that, then you're going to do all these settings. I think right now, in terms of flexibility, the main thing you have to set yourself is the number of cards, because that's what tells Gamma essentially how detailed or succinct you're looking for. So you're kind of directionally telling it, is this like, a 4-part presentation, or do I want to do like 10 to 12? So that's the main, I would say, friction point today is you need to do some thinking about what you want to do. You can add and remove afterwards, so it's not set in stone, but it is one of the things that the model takes in when it tries to sort of decide how to break up the content. So let's start. I'm going to grab, I think I had some notes here. One sec, I'm switching tabs to pull up some notes on my side. So if you are on your side, go ahead and also either paste in or find your file, follow along and do it on your side. I look for here's my course. Okay. I think I'll do this one.
Everybody getting ready? You got your something to paste in?
Sorry, I'm trying. I'm on the wrong. I'm just going to do generic because I can't find one.
Aaron's on board.
Okay.
Rachel, just, you can, if you have something already that you've written before that you want to just see what it looks like, then, you know, just take something you've written and put it in. But you can see also what she's written, brainstorming with generative AI, put together 5 tips. So you can also do something pretty, you know, simple. Think about it as like a prompt. The prompt can be very detailed, or it can be more general, where you sort of explore something. Yeah.
All right. And then here, if you wanted to change that aspect ratio, so traditional would be if you're doing PowerPoint. Default makes it so it's flexible. And then the second step is you're going to decide how you want it to use the text, how you want it to generate text. So if you think about when you've worked with like a tool like ChatGPT, generate is sort of your normal, I would say, that it's going to create something. If you've given it, like, let's say a report that you've written, for instance, maybe you have like, I don't know, a PRFAQ or some sort of strategy document, and now you're trying to create a more visual version of that document, you probably want to use Preserve. Preserve is going to keep your text not completely the same, but it's going to do the most, it's going to do the best job at sort of not changing what you've written, if you will, and just kind of mapping what you've written into slides. It still might make some changes, but it's going to get closest. So that's great if you don't want it to reword. If you've given it a long document, like that strategy document, but you need it to be much shorter because you're just going to be presenting, condense is the great option. I didn't give it hardly anything, so I'm just going to have it generate something more generic for me. And then how much text do you want on that card, right? And so this would be, if you're doing a like document, like a guidebook, you'd want it detailed. Whereas if you just want a very light presentation that mostly you're going to be talking through, my voice is going out, go with brief. And then, of course, like a lot of generative AI tools, you can give it the audience that you're looking at, right? Maybe I'm going to focus on teachers, for instance. And so, of course, it'll come up with maybe examples, things like that, that are more tailored to that audience. And similar to other AI tools, you can give it the tone as well. So these, let's see. And then if you have preferences on what images it's using, if it's creating them, if it's using illustrations, you can do that. So since I'm just going to show you an example there. And yeah, I already did my format. All right. Then at the bottom, as I mentioned, you're going to choose the number of cards. So I said that I wanted 5 tips. So I'm just going to do 7 so that I have an introduction and a summary at the end and my 5 tips. And then you choose a theme. So for example, if you have your brand uploaded, you can switch to that, or you can choose one of their themes. And then you'll see it's kind of fun to watch it create it as you go. All right, so did everyone get through step 1?
Can I just say one?
Yeah, Fran, go ahead. What's your question?
No question, just
Oh.
wow. It's crazy.
All right, should we go ahead and jump into step 2, some of the editing? I think you're on mute, Jan. I'm gonna look at the chat real quick, see if there's anything. All right. I think you're still on mute, Jan.
I'm having this whole conversation with Mina. Mina, can you add in the chat what you mean about multiple data sources? Because that seems like you would just take them from the different sources, put them in, but I'm not sure what you mean about you don't need it in a presentation. But anyway, you add that in the chat and then keep going, Mariena, as we get into.
All right, so since we're about 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
Let's look at some of the ways we can edit. And this is what I want you guys to play around with on your side. So I'm going to give 2 examples, one with the text. So one of my favorite things is that you can change the layout quite easily. So you can see here, the option that Gamma suggested is the sort of text box with an icon, which they call... So you can change the size of the image very easily. I love these sliders. A lot of these views have sliders so that you can decide how big you want it. You can change the column size. So if you wanted them to stack, you would just make it larger, for instance. I will note that this isn't a tool like PowerPoint where you have the ability to fully sort of change the visual layout in 100% of the way you might want to. Like, I would love if they would put these to the right of the image. It doesn't have that level of flexibility, so it's not a perfect tool. I don't know that there are any, but overall I love it because it still does give you the ability to move between things. If you want to have that kind of flexibility, what's great is you don't have to use Gamma and only use Gamma. You can export and take something like this into PowerPoint and then go and do a final round of editing in PowerPoint. And I know some people that do that sometimes. So you don't have to, like, from a mindset perspective, don't think about it that you have to stay in Gamma. If there's certain things that don't make sense for your organization or for what you're trying to do, you can use Gamma to get you 80-90% of the way there and then go do the final revisions, if you will, in PowerPoint as well. So this was the slider. Now, what's cool is you can change that layout. And so it has different options, similar things, but more with a circular look. Oh, it does have left now. See, they just did a launch. I was telling Jan, I was a little nervous because they did a launch this morning, kind of completely redoing a lot of their brand. So this is cool. This is one of their new features then. So that's awesome. I love that. The other thing is if you wanted to actually go to a completely different version and not be like this at all, let's see, can I do it within here? Okay. Yeah, you can see there's a lot of different layouts. You don't have to stick with just these icons. You could move to a pyramid. I'm going to actually switch to, I think it's the text boxes, because now you can see some of the options that you can do from a brand perspective. You see these theme colors that are aligned to whatever brand you work in. You can easily change those, and look, it applies to all the text boxes. So amazing. Or when you're wanting to change those heights, you know, you're just using one slider and they're all aligned. And how awesome does that look? So it's just, to me, simple things like this, that these are not AI features. This is just a smart way of doing things. But what you can do if you want to use AI because you really think, you know what, this is not what I'm going for, you know, you can use AI to change that text, make it longer. I know people that use it to translate if they have, they're working across different languages. You can be more specific, things like that. And you can also just say, you know what, I want to try a completely different layout. Can you make this more visual? And so it's going to use AI features to actually reimagine the card, and it'll try to keep the content itself the same, but look, now it's just come up with something completely different. So go ahead on your side, find one of your cards and look at how you might tweak it. This is, to me, where you're not trying to get Gamma all in that single prompt of creating a document perfect, but now when you're going kind of card by card, you have, you know, all these different options, some with AI, some without AI, that allow you to sort of get a better way to communicate your message without getting stuck moving, you know, individual boxes, and instead focusing more on how you're conveying that message. Unmute, Jan.
Sorry, I keep muting myself. So ultimately, though, whether you're outputting this as a website or a you know, essentially a portfolio is just another version of a website, right? Or
Yep.
if you're creating the output of carousels that you're, you know, for LinkedIn or something that then you're
Yep.
going to export out, or if you want to have slides that either stay in Gamma or
Yep.
export out to PowerPoint. It's a similar process. You're
Absolutely.
just you're just determining which type of output you're going to have. Does that make
Yeah.
sense to folks? I'm gonna assume yes, because no one said no. Um, thank you, Aaron. Appreciate your support there, saying yes in the chat. And
Gotcha.
all right, cool. And then otherwise, at the very beginning, if you have a variety of different sources, like what Mina's talking about, is that she has like things from various Google Docs and things like that. That all just gets copy pasted initially, right? Are you doing any sort of upload of documents and things like that, or how would you do that?
I'm not 100%, but I believe it can only handle one document when you upload. You could try to do multiple, but I'm pretty confident you can, unless it was in this new launch that they just did, that you can only have one document. You couldn't like link 3 documents and have it create from that. If you had 3 sources, you would need to use the text prompt and just copy paste things, which then of course it's not going to use like tables very well, things like that. And I don't know that it works well with tables. I haven't tested actually putting data in specifically. Although if you have data, they do have charts and diagrams where you can yourself put in, copy in some of that data to display like a Gantt chart or a calendar, bar charts, things like that. So those exist. All right, so I wanted to show you images now for the second part of editing. So you can see by default, this image that it came up with doesn't look great. You can remove backgrounds, you can reposition. So let's, like for instance, you could fit this image and now it's gonna show it like that. I think this one, so let's say we wanted to remove it. Now maybe we're going to generate our own image. So one of the things that I really like is, I don't know about you, but I've had a really hard time creating good AI images. The last ChatGPT model, actually, I feel like they come out better. It's a better model. But for the last sort of year and a half, right, it feels often very hit or miss, mostly miss. But what I love is that Gamma comes up with, according to your theme, you can create these consistent theme sort of parts of a image prompt so that across your presentation, you have a little more consistency. For instance, it mentions colors in here based on the theme that I chose. And so all of the sort of images that get generated have that same color palette, which helps your presentation be a bit more cohesive. You can use it also to type in, like maybe you wanted to do a comic or something like that, so that there's this similar consistency in the type of images as well. And then it takes a stab based on the content in your card. It auto generates a prompt. And so I love this. It's a good starting point, and you can use that. For instance, I'm going to do a landscape because this is a top image. And then it has the different models. The other thing I love is there's so many image models there today. It is really hard, I think, for anyone to keep track of what you use these for. But Gamma has these like cards that show you, for instance, this ideogram one is really good with basic text. It's good for artistic styles. Imogen is really realistic and has good people and colors. So I'm going to say, okay, let's use that one, for instance. So I feel like they just have little things that help make it easier to use AI if you're not an expert. And there you go. See, that looks so much better than the pictographic one. But you can have it generate multiple. The other thing I love is the free plan lets you it gets you like a number of tokens, and so you can retry. And so I feel like that's great if you're not sure if you want to pay yet. Fran, go ahead.
Wait, no, actually, before Fran,
Oh.
Cassandra had a quick
Okay.
question.
Oh, thanks. I'm happy to wait for you, Fran. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand like that.
Yeah, it's all right, Cassandra, go ahead.
Okay, I was wondering if I'm looking to build a workshop where I want everybody that's participating to be able to put like sticky notes on
Yeah.
here. Is this capable of that, or would I have to switch and do it in PowerPoint or like Google Sheets to be able to share?
Yeah, these aren't collaborative in that way. That would be more if you're doing like a Miro. I know some of the tools, like even Zoom. I think Butter is one I've heard of for workshops, but yeah, no, Gamma doesn't have any sort of while you're presenting the ability to kind of be collaborative.
And can you upload a QR code? Like, can you use the actual like image of a QR code if you have like a picture that
Yeah,
you're,
if you upload an image, it doesn't do anything to your image. I don't know that I see.
okay.
Actually, we
All
can
right.
search QR.
Right. And then Fran, go ahead.
Oh yeah, they have a native QR
Oh,
code immigration. Yeah.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
They
So you would
have
just give
native
the
one.
URL and then it'll put it in there.
Great. All right, Fran.
Thank you. I was really surprised, like you clicked on an image type that you said, oh yeah, I'm going to choose this. And I was expecting a completely different image than, so how did it know? It just decided based on what you had put in there. It figured out what type of image you would like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just using the prompt. So all the models are going to, sorry, they changed the UI. So I'm trying to figure out how do I get back in.
It's crazy they did it the night before.
I know. So all the stuff I'm used to is not there anymore. So, they're going to take the prompt, and each of these models for that exact same prompt will generate something different. I didn't say the type of image I wanted, if I wanted it photorealistic or illustrative. And so it's kind of
This is your, this is your theme, the Mellonhead theme.
In terms of the colors and stuff,
in
yeah.
terms of colors, but you can see the only thing it gives here is casual and clean. The colors, it actually doesn't say anything about is it photorealistic, illustrative, like
You just wanted those colors.
so
And
it's going to be,
But
in fact,
if you wanted it to be photorealistic, then you would say
you would just put that in there. Yeah. So
okay.
I think to your point, what I got was a bit random. I couldn't have predicted what it was going to give because I wasn't very specific in what I asked for.
Got it. I see. And I see the prompt because I didn't see that before, but this is
The
really
prompt is more like what's in it, but it would be if you want more like if you know specifically what you want, you should write something specific in your prompt. If you're a little bit unsure about the style, then you can just leave it out and kind of see what it gives you. And then from there, maybe use that in future ones.
Thank you so much. This is amazing.
So let's go ahead and do some quick breakouts. There was another question in the chat where Cassandra was asking, how do you put an image in the background?
Yeah, I can show that.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and record that so we can see it. Cassandra, we're just going to really quickly show you how to put an image in the background.
So when you're on card styling, this is managing sort of the card itself. You would go to the background one. And so from there, it already took the image I had and put it back. But if you want to change it, you could edit it. And then you can change the overlay. So if it's like something you don't want to see much of, you would frost it. If you want to see it a little bit, you would do faded. If you want to see it completely, you would put clear.
Okay.
And you could change the color to other sort of brand colors if you want to make it more yellow, more blue.
And then can you put it in the full background, like behind the cards?
Oh, so that would be, did I do full bleed here or no? Okay, I don't have full bleed. So if you want to change what's going on here, that's a page setup. And so I got to move my thing here. Page setup is from this ... on the top. And so from that, you would go in here and you would do background. And then for instance, here, we'll just do an AI image to go quickly. Maybe do this one. It's not going to look great because that's not probably the kind of image you'd want in a background. But you can see that now it has that image in the background.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so continue the conversation over in the channel. There's so many things you can do. The way that we learn is by trying things, asking each other, celebrating when something works, all of those things. I mean, this is only going to happen if we're hands-on working with it.
Absolutely.
That's how we learn these tools. That's how we learn how to get better with AI, with prompting, all of it. And prompting is going to be a part of every tool now, everything. So if, maybe one of these times we'll just talk about best practices just in prompting and things like that. But I just want to make certain, like, it's so critical. This is why every session I did 3 sessions in December that's about AI. Every session this year has had something to do with AI. If you're not doing something with AI every day in all the things you're doing, start stepping up. Start thinking about how to incorporate. AI is going to be a part of everything. Look back on this and think about what a dramatic shift everything that we're going through right now. Embrace it. Please embrace it. Okay? Love it. Okay. Erin, love you. Okay, so I will see you in the community. We will start to see all of the events in May are going to be on Tuesdays. So go and sign up at luma.lu.ma Luma/CX exchange. And let's just, keep working on it. Come to the Step Up Exchange Masterclass on Thursday, all right? Or get the recording. Want to see you there. I know I'm going to see many of you there. All right, thank you. Sorry we couldn't interact more. I love usually hearing from folks, but thank you. I'll see you soon. All right, take care.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Success Hour, formerly known as CS Office Hours. We regularly put out new content, so to be the first to know, like this episode, tap that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you soon.